Hello, friends and strangers. Wow, these last couple of weeks have been crazy. Well, thanks for agreeing with me, Crow. Apparently, there's some concern about me recording this on my patio. I say concern because the wildlife in the area would like my patio to be their domain, but I tend to like to take it away from them. So here's the deal. I'm kind of bad at this podcast talking thing. My ADHD takes a hold and I start off on a tangent and I never seem to recover from. What I believe that I'm going to talk about on this podcast, I end up usually talking about something completely different. And that makes for some very confusing descriptions, I tell you that. And writing them isn't even any more fun than that, because half the time I can't remember what I talked about. So I'm going to try this a bit different way. I'm used to using cue cards, well, self-made cue cards made out of index cards and my handwriting for my Strangers No More podcast. Yes, I use cheat sheets. I use cue cards. This isn't a bad thing. This is a good thing. These are tools. And I made myself a few cue cards for this podcast so that I wouldn't get too distracted. Because this podcast is about self-advocacy, 100%. And last week, I was a very good self-advocate. I had spent the month writing myself notes about what I needed and questions that I had for my doctors. And I saw my regular doctor on Wednesday. I also, last week, followed up on 2 cardiac tests. Wednesday was my echocardiogram. And then on Friday, I went up to the Pulse Heart Institute for my cardiac stress test, which was a nuclear cardiac stress test, but a little bit more about that in a minute. At my doctor's appointment, I was able to advocate for myself because of my chronic dehydration. If you're having chronic dehydration, show your doctor clinical signs. Here's the thing. I sat there and I pinched my own knuckles. I showed her the tenting in every one of my knuckles. That was a clinical sign of dehydration, of chronic dehydration. Learn those clinical signs and show them to your doctors. They won't look for them 9 out of 10 times themselves. You need to advocate for yourself and show them yourself. So when it comes down to my reasons for my visit, I love this because I can sit here and I can look and see all of the things that we discussed. My dehydration, my POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. I was able to express to her the increased issues that I've had with my POTS because of then there is dysphagia, unspecified type. Because I have dysphagia, I have a lack of sensation in my mouth and throat and difficulty swallowing. I also have, and this is the next thing that's listed on my reason for visit, avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, ARFID, as a part of my autism spectrum disorder and dissociative identity disorder, which are both listed on here very nicely. And she also included my PTSD and anxiety. So these are the things that I really appreciate about my doctor. I went down a list and I told her my concerns, and she interpreted that list to things that she could help with. And the diagnoses that I have been being treated for. The end result was that she wanted me to wait to order any saline infusions until after I had my autonomic testing. Well, here's the deal. And as I explained to her, and again, this is an example of self-advocacy. The way that I explained it, when I said, I appreciate that you would like me to wait until I've had the autonomic testing to treat me for my POTS with saline infusions. However, since it is something that we already know works for me, and I'm looking at missing the entire rest of the summer, and I've missed the first half of the summer, and when I say missed, I mean being alone and enjoying the photography perambulations that I do around the county is something that I get a lot of personal satisfaction out of. I love to just go play with my camera. But when I am so unsure of my own health and my POTS is acting up to a significant point that I can't even be sure that I'm not going to pass out in my chair and die in a trail and nobody comes see, and so a lot of anxiety, and yes, she listed anxiety as well. But when I explained to her, when I advocated for myself, and I told her, I said, because of the fact that I do not want to miss the rest of summer, I respect you, but I will, no matter what you say, since I know that I can get saline infusions without a doctor's order, I will go and I will do infusions until 2 weeks before my autonomic testing. 2 weeks is plenty of a time to get down to where I was already. I don't intake. I have difficulty swallowing. I choke. I cough up. And when I choke, I can end up coughing up a lot more liquid than what I intake. So it's a negative intake situation at that point. So after I advocated for myself and after I told her that, she agreed to order saline infusions for the next 6 weeks until my autonomic testing. And then we'll proceed after that, after the testing and what it shows. So this was a milestone. This was an absolute milestone, because for me, it meant that my quality of life, and that is a key to when you're talking with your doctors, when you're expressing your situations, make sure that you point out what your quality of life is and what you would like it to be, and how you believe that person can help you get from where you are to where you want it to be. These are critical points to make with your healthcare partners. And remember, respect them as the partners that they are in your healthcare. Build a team of partners that you can communicate with. I know this is hard. I personally fired 2 doctors last week. One was my orthopod, and it's the second orthopod that I fired. I don't know what it is about men, cisgender males that like to fat shame, that want to go into this profession. Just stay out, dude. We need more females. We need more assigned female at birth people. We need more LGBTQIA army. Come on, people. We need you. We need the Rainbow Army in the medical profession. I know it's been burnout, but go into specialties. We really need you in specialties. So, yes, I fired my orthopod for calling me fat. While having an eating disorder, that just made it worse, people. Come on. I fired my cardiologist. In fact, as I was sitting and waiting for my ride on Friday afternoon, I got a phone call from my new cardiologist's office. I got a phone call that said, oh, this is fun. People aren't keeping their music to themselves. Headphones, can you hear them? Anyway, I got a phone call from my new cardiologist office that said, and they set up a new appointment with a female person with a female name. I will say that if the person is a cisgendered male with the name Nina, all I can say is perhaps they have a better outlook on life. I don't know. That's that idea of boy named Sue type of a concept. But I'm assuming, and it's bad to assume based on names, but I'm also assuming not only based on name, but also by that big note in capital letters that was put on my referral by my primary care doctor that said, no cisgender male doctors. So, I trust my referral office, I trust my doctor, and I fired both of the bad doctors. So building this team has not been easy. I will not say it is easy. It is very difficult to build a team that you can communicate with, that you can trust, and that trusts you, and that respects you. If you're not feeling respect in a medical office, leave. I mean it. Walk out. Roll out. Leave. Leave. You are paying them, or somebody is paying them on your behalf. If you're not getting the care that you need, go elsewhere. I know that is very difficult in many, many, many parts of the U.S. as well as many other countries. But you deserve appropriate medical service. I said it, and I meant it. We all do. We deserve respect, and we deserve respectful communications about our bodies and our brains. In order for us to be good self-advocates, we need to have the right information. If you're listening to this because I am a health self-advocate, I give this baton I pass to you. You are your best self-advocate. And I'm going to end this with what happened at the end of the day on Friday. After waiting for about 45 minutes for my ride home, I was picked up by a Paratransit driver from Ahoy Transport, which is a subcontractor with the Paratransit service here in Olympia, Washington. The noises out here, I swear. It was a driver for Paratransit, for Ahoy, that I had previously, just about a week to 10 days, not quite sure how long it was, but it was about a week before, I had previously submitted a complaint about this driver. And I submitted this complaint about this driver because he was tailgating and exhibiting, and he was playing on his phone. He was doing many different things that weren't driving. And I was nervous. And tailgating is one of the most dangerous actions that you can do on the freeway. I've been informed of that when I was a young driver by a state patrolman who was actually a friend of mine's husband. So I ended up learning this at a relatively young age, and I learned that the most dangerous action that you can do while driving on a freeway is to tailgate. So don't tailgate. But when I called and reported him for that, and I all of a sudden realized that he had not been talked to about that report because I had not been followed up with about that report when he arrived to pick me up. So he pulls up to pick me up, and he fastens me in, or so I thought. He's driving down the freeway from Tacoma to Olympia, and he is fiddling with his phone again, and I am trying to manage my anxiety. Seriously, my doctor has told me to manage my stress. She has told me very, very clearly that the most important thing that I can do this summer while we're doing all of these heart tests is to manage my stress. But my stress will kill me. So I'm trying to manage my stress. I've got my noise canceling headphones on. I've got a show on that brings me smiles. And I'm trying to dissociate into the show while he's driving. And then the van lurches forward, and my chair shifts forward, and my foot plate of my chair is jammed into and underneath the console, and my foot with it, my left foot with it. And I'm left trying to pry my foot out of the console, and it left a cut on my toe. Now, this is the foot that had the torn muscle or tendon in it, depending on which doctor you listen to, just 2 months ago. We just healed this foot. Thanks, people. So, the driver did not acknowledge the accident. They did not acknowledge my injury. And when that driver went to unload me, he expressed issues with couldn't unhook me because it was jammed because of the shift. And what I did when the vehicle stopped is I pushed record on my phone for a video, but I didn't face it outward. I faced the mic towards the outward. And I allowed the microphone to pick up all of what was said, all of the conversation. When I told him that I was hurt, and he really brushed it off, did not seek attention, did not do any of what he is supposed to do. So I had 4 minutes of conversation while he was unloading me. And I was able to use that and play that conversation for his boss on Monday morning when I was finally able to report to Paratransit and to Ahoy and to the healthcare authority which contracts them. Understand this, if you have a complaint with Paratransit in your state, there is somebody who's contracting them with the state. Contact who contracts them. In Washington State, it is the healthcare authority. That's who I called. I made 2 complaints. I was followed up by 11 o'clock. I was on the phone with his boss, and he was fired. I am sad to hear a person losing a job, but they had an opportunity to correct that. They failed. I'm sorry. I have to be respected. And if I am not treated as a person, then I am not valued. And here's your lesson. Value yourself enough to be a good self-advocate. I wish you